5, 6, 7, 8.
Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of the EX podcast. My name is Stefan Vincent. I've started this podcast because I believe that companies have to think of themselves as employment brands if they hope to attract and retain talent. Let me ask you a simple question. Are you excited to get up every morning and go to work? Well, consider this. Only 30% of the workforce feel engaged at work. That means for the other 70%, well, work kind of sucks. Yeah, we all get it. Engaged employees are good for business. But why companies are not acting on it? After all, employees are the first ambassadors of a brand. Engaged employees foster innovation, deliver higher customer service, and bring creativity to an organization. In short, they are more productive. This podcast brings a different lens to the employee experience, a brand and customer experience angle, rather than a traditional HR angle. In our episodes, we cover multiple topics that touch and impact the employee experience, like the key components of a positive employee experience, or office space design and its impact on the company's culture, the employee journey map, or how design thinking, collaboration, and innovation are intertwined. We also talk about employer branding and employee engagement tools and measurements, or the place of technology in the employee experience. Today's guest is Jacob Bracken from PERQ, company out of Indianapolis. It's PERQ.com. He's the Vice President of Control, and he's been with PERQ since 2002. For Jacob, there is no culture book. You build your company's culture through trials and errors. Jacob will also give us tips on how to scale up the employee experience from a 5-person startup to a 100-employee organization, and how to move from outbound recruiting to inbound recruiting. For Jacob, the employee experience is as much defined by leadership than it is by the employees themselves. This episode is brought to you by Mold, M-O-L-D. Mold is a full-service brand agency that works with artists, writers, and creatives to help its clients increase sales, book more gigs, and boost audience engagements. Its creative team of graphic designers, videographers, writers, and brand managers work together to make sure that every time a client's name is seen or heard, it shines. I hope you enjoy this conversation. If you get a chance, please make sure to review the podcast on iTunes. You can open up the iTunes app and type in Stefan Vincent or EX Podcast, and you will find us there. And last thing, if you want to send me feedback, suggestions for future topics or guests, you can reach me at svincent@exsummit.com or on Twitter at @EX_summit. All right, let's get to it. Hi everyone, welcome to our very first episode of the EX podcast. Very excited for today's special guest, Jacob Bracken from PERQ. It is PERQ. Jacob is the Executive Vice President of Control and has been with PERQ since June 2002.
Correct, yes.
That's been 14 years.
It's a long time.
Yes. Congrats.
Thanks.
It's quite unusual these days to be that long within the company.
It is. Not many of my friends and colleagues have put 14 years into the same place.
So you must really be enjoying it here, right?
You know, I've always enjoyed what I've been doing and always thought of this as home and can't imagine being anywhere else at this point.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Well, tell me about your role and about the company as well.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, I've been here about 14 years, and my role's evolved quite a bit over those 14 years. I started off in sales and quickly jumped over to our operational team and started to build out the infrastructure necessary to support the startup at the time. And it's evolved into me overseeing finance and HR today. I've been doing that for about 5 years now. It's definitely been evolved into a passion of mine to be involved in a part of this part of the organization, kind of help leading the way and paving the way to making sure that we're building the company that we want and achieving our mission and goals. So PERQ, we focus on creating consumer engagement that counts for the brands that we service. So we do a lot of website conversion and focusing on building out interactive experiences that help achieve that for our clients. So.
Do you work for specific verticals or specific companies?
Yes. So today we're focused on the automotive industry, as well as starting to expand into the furniture market, as well as multifamily apartment complexes.
All right. Back in 2002, when you started, how many employees were there?
There were 5 of us.
All right, and now?
So, we just crossed over 100 employees.
It's amazing.
The largest we've ever been. So,
how was the progression?
Well, from 2002 to 2007, we grew very rapidly, had a lot of success as we built the business. I think we reached just around 90 employees, 95 employees at that time, and then were hit very hard by the recession. So unfortunately, at that point, we went down to, I believe, around 35, 40 people on our team, and have steadily been growing back to the size of the business that we are today. So
awesome. 100 employees. That's a big step forward.
It is. It's a major milestone, especially when it comes to maintaining the culture that we've been so focused on building over the past 14, 15 years.
All right, good. Well, PERQ has been on the list of the best places to work in Indiana for quite some time. Tell us, what does employee experience mean to you and then to PERQ? Sure.
So it's a hard thing to explain when it embodies so much of what we do. It's really the way that we approach business and the way that we think about accomplishing the goals that we have as an organization. So very early on, Scott and Andy were focused, the 2 co-founders, on open book management and using that as a tool for aligning all the employees around a unified goal. So using open book management, being very transparent about the decisions that were being made and about the performance of the organization and the outcomes that we were trying to achieve gave us a fundamental backbone on just how we started building out the different layers of what we feel is culture in and through the business, and allows us to do what we do on a daily basis. So boiling that back to this idea of employee experience is it's hard to pinpoint and just say one thing, but it's it's the collection of all the things that we do on a daily basis to keep the culture what it is today and keep everyone aligned towards achieving the same goals. If we were to all 100 people be focused on 100 different things and 100 different outcomes, we'd go nowhere quickly. So using the different tools and mechanisms that we've put in place over the past 14, 15 years to keep everyone aligned allows us to accomplish the large goals that we have.
So you've been in the company for a long time. As the company grew, was it intentional to focus on the culture as the company grew, or did it start mostly organically, and then at some point in time you decided to better structure what the culture would be? How did it work?
Sure. I don't think it was ever a specific intention that we set out to build an amazing culture. We knew that creating an experience for the employees is a very important part of being successful at building a successful business. Looking back 15 years, I don't think we ever started, talking about it in the way that we're intentional about creating this experience for employees, but it kind of has morphed into a framework for being able to communicate and talk about it. So really, culture for us has kind of been something that I'd say in the last 5 to 8 years has been something that's really materialized, and as a way to speak or to talk about a lot of the things that we've been doing since day one. But it kind of gave us a platform for us to communicate across the organization about culture and what our intents are, and the impact that culture can have in us, building the company. So it's, when there's 5 of us and we can all talk, across the table from each other, it's a lot easier to maintain that unification. As you grow and build the business, you need to put certain things in place that allow us to maintain that same alignment that we've, had since day one. And, at 100 people, that's a lot more difficult, or you have to be a lot more intentional about how you go about doing it versus when you are 10 to 30 people.
Right.
So that the need for being intentional has forced us to be very specific, selective about what we choose to focus our resources and attention on and time. So investing that effort into that very intentional activity has been something that we've kind of we spent a lot of time trial and erroring, and kind of there's no playbook. It's
the way to go, right? Exactly.
So to speak. So it's what's worked for us has been a byproduct of 15 years of kind of testing and pivoting and continuing to be open to changing the way that we do things. And what makes sense for the company as a whole, for where we are at that time and what we're working towards achieving.
Okay. So you oversee HR in your role.
Mm-hmm.
Is employee experience different from HR, or are they tied together? How do you see that?
I would definitely say that HR is not employee experience. I think that HR plays a role in creating the right environment for the ideal employee experience, right? But it is just one influencing factor in creating the right environment for success to take place. So HR definitely helps create structure and framework, boundaries for us to play within as an organization that allows us to be successful and to work in unison and to maintain alignment. But employee experience and culture are a much greater part of the overall process versus HR just playing a specific role in it.
Okay. So how does your company create employee experiences? What are some of the things, initiatives or framework that you've put in place to create that employee experience?
Okay. So we have a lot of things that we're trying to focus on. But at any given time, we try to boil those down to really 5 main areas that we're focused on today. For 2017, we kind of use a program structure. And one of those 5 programs is what I call culture alignment. So internally here, I really think about culture alignment as this employee experience. And so everything that we're doing organizationally to drive that employee experience kind of fits within this culture alignment framework. So, our mission within this program is to build and leverage PERQ's talent to achieve our goals, right? So how do we go about doing that? How does that actually materialize from just a mission statement to what you do on an actionable level on a daily basis? And so focusing on obviously creating an environment that attracts, talented individuals to the company to want to be a part of this. How do we help them grow and develop on a daily basis and challenge them to, be at their best and to want to, give their best to the team that they're a part of as well as the company? And then how do we make sure that we're creating an environment that they want to be a part of for the long term? So those are really the methods within that program that we align all of our activities around on a daily basis or throughout the year to hopefully create an ideal employee experience that, once you're here, you want to be a part of and want to contribute to and motivates you to be performing at the highest level possible. So,
who does establish those programs and who drives them?
Programs are really a structure that executive leadership utilizes to focus efforts and resources throughout the year. Within that program, it comes down to the individuals that are a part of our team
Obviously.
that make up, the actual effort that gets put into making that program a success. So, again, the program is a structural framework that allows for focus and intent to be put in certain areas, but it really comes down to those people that are a part of the team and making it happen.
Okay. So, as we talked earlier, there was no specific point in time where there was an intention to focus on the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Today, how do you see the next 3 to 5 years in terms of continue to build that employee experience, knowing that now there's a bit more intention around it and some frameworks defined around the EX? So how do you see those next 3 to 5 years?
I'm sure they're going to present some challenges that we haven't yet faced as we continue to grow the size organization that we are. It's something that I'm focused on. I don't have all the answers, but it's something that will be intentional about looking for ways to maintain the culture that we have today, but also understand that it will change over time as the organization increases in size, but also allow it to take on a new feel as necessary for us to achieve the goals of that of the moment that we're in down the road, and the needs of the organization and the needs of the employees and the teams. The things that are working for us today may not be the right way of solving the problems in the future. So being adaptable, and ready to mold the organization around the experience that's necessary at that time for us to continue to push the company forward. So.
Do you have in mind that of a threshold of number of employees within the company where you know that you may have a hard time maintaining the culture as it is when you reach with that threshold?
I think that we'll always be able to maintain the core culture. The way that we go about facilitating that culture might have to adapt or mold over time. So, the things that we hold dear to ourselves as our core values or really what allows us to be successful today should continue to provide a recipe for success down the road. But just being adaptable to the methods at which you're going about executing that culture, is going to change. Right, as we just crossed 100 people. If I'm assuming that at 150 people, what makes up our culture and what it feels like at that point will be, we'll have taken a pivot from where we are today. And ideally, we're able to continue to create an environment where it changes positively and continues to things that we can do at 150 people there, that we couldn't do at 100 because of the scale of the organization, the resources available that we couldn't do when we were 5 people, and vice versa, right? You're having to pick and choose the things that you were able to do when you were 5 people may not make sense when you're 150 people. So
do you have a specific name for PERQ employees, like PERKers or?
Nothing quite as cute as that. I might have to steal that idea. We just kind of operate as teammates, and really, I'm gonna have to come up with something like that. Some sort of
sure, it's a challenge for next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you look for specific profiles or behaviors or attributes when you hire people?
We have a set of personality characteristics that we feel as though we embody as a team. That we there are definitely positives, or maybe the deciding factor in swinging us between one candidate or the other. But not necessarily a particular profile, knowing that diversity is obviously a big part of what helps, make a team thrive even better than maybe what it did previously. Yeah. So different experiences, backgrounds, educational degrees might help a team become more well-rounded and gain different perspective. So.
You mentioned earlier that you tried a few things and then you made adjustments, mm-hmm. which is very similar to, let's say, software development, right? You build a product, you test it.
Got to be agile.
You iterate it as needed, and so forth and so forth. What are some of the things that didn't work as well as expected, and what kind of adjustments did you make along the way?
Sure. Gosh, that's a great question. We recently just changed, so we do a lot of around communication about quarterly and annual goals, and using different techniques of tracking different metrics to help gauge our performance throughout the year and to keep the team aligned on whether or not we're inching closer to our goals or whether we're maybe not progressing as quickly as what we'd like to be.
Okay.
So in the past, with a small organization, we were able to be use monetary incentives maybe to align efforts around a particular goal for a quarter. As the organization grows and as we're really investing heavily in the growth and development of the business, $5,000 towards quarterly bonuses don't go as far for 100 people as they do for 10 people, right?
Sure.
So having to choose different ways to motivate and align the teams around still working just as hard as they did previously towards achieving those goals is something that recently we just pivoted away from quarterly monetary bonuses towards more incentive structures that will be enhancements to our work environment, our office here, that everybody collectively as a team have voted on, and selecting as what we're playing for as our prize for the quarter.
Okay, so we'll get at some point to the office space because it's very awesome space.
Thank you.
But going back to what you just said, do you typically look for employees' feedback when you try to implement new things around the employee experience?
Absolutely. We do a lot of anonymous surveys and taking a pulse of where the company is in particular times, and take that feedback to heart and try to adapt to it as often as possible. One of the incentives that we have in place right now is if we hit our quarterly goals for the first quarter here, we've had employees voicing their desire to wear shorts during the summer to work. So from Memorial Day to Labor Day, we'll be able to wear shorts if we achieve our goals for Q1. So that was something that was brought to us, in one of those surveys that we did. So it's more of a lighthearted example, but we do really try to take that feedback and act upon it as quickly as possible. I don't want it to just be a sounding board for people to voice their opinions or concerns and then not really take it to heart and do anything about it. So it's not always possible to react to every piece of advice or feedback that you get from the team, but being transparent about the things that we're choosing to focus on and choosing to maybe hold off on focusing on is also part of that. You solicit the opinions and feedback of the team and then you don't act upon it. That can almost be just as detrimental as not even asking for the opinion, or maybe even worse. So, again, just I think being transparent and open about what we're choosing to focus our resources towards being able to provide to the team as improvements to their, the environment or their experience of being a part of PERQ, and what we're choosing not to focus our resources on. And that communication with the team is, I think, extremely important.
So, you have committees or groups that somehow have a voice in defining the experience, or how does it work?
Absolutely. We have a team of a committee of employees that get together frequently. We call them the Culture Club, and it's 100% employee driven. I will make resources available, a budget available of things that they choose to want to put that budget to work on in helping to facilitate the atmosphere that we want to create and helping engage with employees, and just that could be as having a celebration for Mardi Gras last week, of pitching for Fat Tuesday, and getting everybody aligned around bringing something in for lunch and having a little celebration around that. We do a community outreach program that the Culture Club helps facilitate around the holidays, and helping underprivileged families make sure that they are able to have presents under their Christmas tree, and help with their children being able to have a good experience around the holidays. So that team really takes and is kind of the collective voice of the entire company, and making sure that the employees are a part of creating that experience just as much as leadership or management. So
okay, you mentioned a few minutes ago employee surveys to gauge what employees would like to see, or just to get feedback from them. Now, I'm going to ask you a tough question to answer, but how do you have ways to measure employee engagements?
This is a tough one, right? So we've opted to. So we've created a game called PERQ, the game of PERQ. Okay. I don't know if you noticed it on the chalkboard when you walked in, but it's something that Culture Club created 2 years ago as a way to bring to the surface some everyday efforts and wins of individuals throughout the company, and a way to recognize those small everyday wins that we have that are very important in the overall achievement of our goals and mission for the company, right? So, but a lot of times without that method of bringing those things to the surface, they can be easily overlooked. So this is a way of recognizing each individual employee. And so our elected measure of engagement and overall participation by the company is their progression in the game of PERQ throughout the year. So we want 100% of employees to be engaged in the game of PERQ, and you'll earn a space in that game by any number of things that we've quantified as ways to earn spaces throughout the game. It could be as simple as doing your teammates a favor by cleaning out the refrigerator in the game room, or in the employee lounge, or achieving quota for the month. So it's a multitude of different ways that you can earn spaces and just get a little bit of recognition for your accomplishments throughout the year. And so as you progress through that game, we'll incentivize you to get through that game by getting some smaller prizes, and then at the end of the year, if you complete the game, your name's thrown into a raffle for a vacation that's paid for by the company. So we sent somebody to Punta Cana last year, or earlier this year, since they finished the game and they got their name drawn into the hat, and so it's a way for us to encourage those small everyday wins, and to recognize employees for those things, and also a way for us to measure employee engagement across the organization, and just their willingness to participate in that game.
You would say that play and maybe gamification at some level is important in engaging with employees?
For us, it is at PERQ. I mentioned open book management, and treating business as a game is a big part of open book management, and it's been something that we've opted to practice since day one. So really trying to boil some of the things that we're trying to accomplish as a business down to a game is a large part of our culture, and it makes it hopefully a little bit easier for people to digest, to be interested in being a part of the overall outcome of the game, and just a way to level set expectations, and everybody can understand, when you draw a sports analogy to what we're trying to accomplish, as a business. So,
all right. I heard that several years ago you used to do a lot of, let's say, outbound recruiting, where you would hire headhunters to look for talents, right? And at some point you decided to invest more on the culture and even partner with a PR agency to actually promote the culture and change around and get more inbound recruiting. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. So
how did it work, and what was the pivot point where you decided, you know what, outbound is, first of all, it's expensive to do outbound recruiting, right? And you don't necessarily attract all the right talents because you have to have someone to find them, while inbound you may be inundated with a lot of requests, but you can be more picky, right? How did it work?
Sure. So when we were building out our strategy for the next several years and laying out our plans for growth, we knew that a key part of us being able to accomplish our growth is by finding talented individuals to be a part of our team. And knowing that growth would require us scaling the team in size dramatically over the next several years, we knew we couldn't just do it by posting a position or by being very micro in our efforts to recruit an individual into position at that particular moment in time, and that it needed a groundswell to take place over time and be more intentional about building out a long-term pipeline of candidates that maybe can become aware of PERQ, but might not be in the market today to make a job change. But in a year or so down the road, when we have the right position open for them and they've still kept tabs of where we are interested in being a part of our team at that point. So I'd say 2016 was really that pivot year for us, culminating in hiring our in-house recruiter to focus on building that groundswell and that long-term strategy out for us, and making sure that we're putting ourselves out there in the local Indianapolis market to continue to build a presence for PERQ. We're still a fairly small company. We're competing against very large organizations out there for the talent that's in Indianapolis and in outlying areas. And the only way to go about that and be successful long term is by starting today and building out that awareness in the community of why PERQ is a place that we feel is a great place to establish your career and build upon your career, and why you might want to be a part of that team long term. So
what do you do specifically to reach out to talent?
I know that we spend a lot of time online and building our presence in different channels that typical individuals looking for a new position would flock toward. But then also community outreach events, going to networking groups or events, engaging with not only Michelle going out into the market and being out there and being able to talk with individuals, but also getting other people on our team involved in events in the community and starting to be more present and available to those that might be looking for opportunity to speak with us about what it's like to work at PERQ and why should they be considering us when they are in the market to make a change in their career. So.
All right. Let's talk a bit about the office space.
Okay.
How long have you been in this building?
Since 2005.
All right, so it's 12 years.
Yes.
That was a big space for... How many employees did you have again at that time?
2005, we probably moved in with 40 people or so. So just under 30,000 square feet for, so almost the size of my house at the time for each employee. So...
Obviously, those listening to this podcast won't be able to see what the office looks like, but could you give us a description of what the space looks like?
Sure. So it's a very open concept office space. We have different meeting rooms, conference rooms, office spaces, but with about 100 desks and cubicles in here, but very what I feel is a fun and inviting environment. We consider this, to stick along with the game analogy, our stadium that we play in every single day, and we want to be our best in our stadium, and we want it to be somewhere that people are attracted to, and it's kind of a face to those that are in here every day, but also that come from outside of the office and in here, and get a little bit of a flair and flavor for who we are as a team.
So what is very unique or specific in this building?
Oh gosh, part of that gamified culture. We like to play games, so we have a basketball goal inside, which you might hear a ball bouncing, during this conversation from time to time. We have a small gym on site here. We have a large lounge area where we kind of treat it as like a coffee house space where people will get together and meet, but also have lunch and socialize with their fellow teammates. I feel like I've probably been hit by a Nerf dart once or twice already today from people shooting Nerf guns around the office. So it's just a fun, open environment. We have some very large murals on a couple of the different walls that really help to communicate or articulate some of the personality traits that we hold dear to our culture.
What do you have on those walls?
We have someone that's scaling a very sharp, rock cliff face. It's kind of the wall that embodies, grit and determination and perseverance as a part of those personality traits that we hold dear.
Is it a permanent feature, or is it something that's going to change?
It is fairly permanent. I guess we could get it off the wall. It's not something we have any plans to change, like as rotating insulation at this point. But I guess it could change down the road. But I don't think it's worn off in its impact on the company and those that choose to visit our space at this point.
So one thing that is noticeable is as soon as you get into the building, you see those scooters.
Yep.
Right. What are those for?
Nobody likes to just walk around in our office, so we constantly have people zooming around on those little scooters, razor scooters, getting from one place to another. I think we actually have some small bikes in the office now that people ride around as well. So we just try to keep it a lighthearted environment, but it also plays to the fact that there's a high level of accountability and an extremely hard work ethic with those that are a part of this team. We find individuals that might be attracted to this type of space, but also have that perseverance and drive and determination and I mentioned work ethic that is absolutely necessary for us to be a successful team. So it's overused, but a work hard, play hard sort of mentality, and it really, we try to do a lot to exude that here. And there are times where we're ahead in our expectations, and we can take a few minutes and pause and have a good time and play around. But they're also this is a team that knows when we all are also behind, and we need to play from behind and get ahead and be able to win the game, and finding those that are in tune enough and willing to buckle down when it's when the going's getting tough, and put that extra effort in to see it through to the end is that balance that I think we do a very good job of finding on an individual as well as team level.
All right. Is there a specific meaning behind PERQ?
There's a little bit of a play on words there, with PERQ, is obviously an incentive or
right.
A method of enticing a particular type of behavior. So there's perquisite is the root word, and it's just a method of incentivizing those, and so that really creating engaging experiences for the consumers that we help link to the different brands that we support is really where that's driven from, and being able to kind of embody what it is that we try to help brands achieve, right? Attracting and incentivizing consumers to engage with their brands. So,
okay, what how do you think employee experience could be utilized in all companies from your own experience here at PERQ?
Sure. It's hard for me to envision a company environment or culture that doesn't try to focus on putting all the right elements in place to have a successful employee experience, or one that motivates and inspires those that are on your team. I think that really is the difference between having a team of A players, but they don't necessarily play well or aren't aligned towards achieving the team goal, and having a team that really performs well together and operates at high levels of efficiency and can achieve great things together. So I think without putting all those right ingredients into the environment that can spark a very positive outcome, it's hard to envision a company long term being able to be successful without some intention around trying to promote that type of environment or that type of positive experience.
I agree. So, you mentioned earlier that Indianapolis is a very competitive place when it comes to recruiting talents. Do you see that the EX is actually a true differentiator when it comes to hiring top talent?
I think yes, it can be. I think that it can, at times maybe attract the talent that's focused individuals that are maybe just focused on the environment that we have created, and it doesn't always lend itself to filtering out maybe some of the individuals that might not be a good fit for us. So it can be challenging, but I think that it definitely helps in our efforts to at least open the door for those conversations. Yeah. Bringing people in solely because the environment that we have isn't necessarily going to be a win for them or a win for us, but finding that perfect match of those that are attracted to the space and the environment that we've created, but also are willing to work hard and are driven and motivated to achieve great things. That's where the marriage of the two comes together and can be a definite positive in helping us get the outcome that we're looking for.
Okay. You mentioned that there's no specific culture book when it comes to creating a culture and employee experience within a company. What would be your advice for any company right now when it comes to create an employee experience? Things that you wish you would have done maybe differently, or things that you wish you had done but you couldn't do it, whatever it might be. What would be your advice, your piece of advice?
So focusing on transparency and aligning the entire team around what it is that the company is trying to achieve and accomplish. Setting goals and communicating progress towards those goals is extremely important, and then helping everyone on the team understand why those goals are the ones that the company has set and chosen to focus time, energy, effort, resources all towards accomplishing. I think without that, it's hard to really motivate the team. I think that that transparency and communication and focus on continual communication about those things is, without that, it's hard to see creating a company culture that can really thrive. So I think if you lay the foundation through communication, transparency, the right organizational structure for articulating those goals and keeping everybody abreast of where you are and in terms of performing towards those, it's really kind of the baseline. And then it's making sure that clear expectations are being set, clear and appropriate incentives and motivation is being put in place as well. And then allowing for feedback and constantly asking for that feedback from your team, and building a team that thrives on that feedback as well. As individuals, we can't continue to get better at what we do if we're not willing to accept feedback, open and honest feedback from our peers or those that lead our efforts on a daily basis. So being open and honest with each other and building a level of trust that's absolutely necessary for anyone to function as a team is important as well. And I think with that transparency and open communication, trust is something that will quickly follow if those other elements are there.
Great. Before we end this podcast, let me ask you, I'd like to ask a couple of personal questions just to try to get a bit more personal with our guests. You're a runner, right?
I try to be, yes.
You try to be? What do you do for running? What things that you've done?
Oh, I've run a couple marathons here in Indianapolis, and I ran an ultra marathon up in northern Indiana a few years back, and I'd say that was definitely a most trying experience I've ever had as an individual, pushing myself to the limit and just understanding exactly what I was capable of doing. And it's something that you have to be motivated as an individual. It's something that you can go out and work on and practice on a daily basis and constantly try to get better at. So it's something that keeps me energized and motivated, and it's a good way to clear my head after a long day at the office as well. So, when
you're in the office, do you borrow a scooter or bike, or do you actually run in the office?
I'm a fast walker. I get around. I typically, I'm not very coordinated, so I try to just stay on my own two legs most of the time. So I'll definitely occasionally take a corner too fast walking and maybe run into a scooter or a bike from time to time. So.
Awesome. Well, a big thank you to you, Jacob, because that's our first episode, right? There's a little pressure on both sides to make it happen, but I really appreciate your candor, and thanks for leading us through the PERQ experience. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and it was a fun time.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the EX Podcast. If you want to learn more, you can visit our website at exsummits.com to find out when our next events are. You can also find my manifesto on business to employee or B2E branding at b2ebranding.co.